Hello, everyone. Jason and Diana here from Hawthorne Union, and we are continuing along on our credentialing mini-series. We are giving information and breaking down all things about ICF Credential. So this is for coaches, coaches to be, or people that are looking to hiring a coach, a little bit more information about what happens with getting credentialed with the International Coaching Federation, the ICF. And with me today is Diana. Hi, Diana.
Hi.
When it comes to getting your ICF credentials, we've talked about it in a previous video about it's something not for everyone, but however, it's becoming more the norm. So we're really encouraging it. However, as for my personal experience, the type of education and your experience can really heavily impact the way that you enter into the coaching market. So we wanted to turn on the video and share a few things about what that process actually looks like. If you have been in the coaching world before, you have probably seen a lot of letter acronyms. They recently changed that to levels. So we're going to go over all that. Diana, what am I looking at here?
Yeah, so there's 3 different levels of credential. So depending on your time as a coach, the amount of education, and then also your quality levels as a coach. So there's a number of different components for credentialing. But if you're just starting out, you're looking at the associate certified level. If you are more experienced, perhaps your training was farther in the past, or you even completed training through a non-ICF approved program, you may have enough for the professional coach level, that PCC level. And the master coach level, there's only about 2,200 globally on the master coach level, but you need to be a PCC before you apply to MCC. So even though we'll talk some about the master coach level today, we'll focus more on the kind of entry level for if you're looking at ACC or PCC.
For those people who are new or looking to get a coach and they see these 3 letters after someone's name, what would you say that they should signify to someone that's not familiar with the coaching acronyms?
In order to have these acronyms or have these letters, the ACC or PCC are most common. You also see the MCC as well. It shows that someone has committed to a program that's approved by the International Coaching Federation. They've also committed to the ICF ethics, and they also have committed to continuing education because credential is something that needs to be renewed. So from a quality control perspective, especially for our HR business partners or head of people who are potentially hiring coaches to come work in companies, they're often looking for this kind of standard set, almost like they would look for a degree or equivalent experience. More often than not, as times are changing, the ICF credential is expected. So if you have experience that's not ICF approved, lead with that. Who you know can help you get in, but we are seeing that there's an expectation. Otherwise, from a level and a quality perspective, the levels are in order. So the associate is the first level. Once they've trained and gotten to a certain level of mastery, the PCC, and then the MCC are those who have dedicated a career experience to this.
Here we have kind of a breakdown of the 3 credentialing levels, with ACC kind of coming up to just 100 hours of coaching, 60 hours of training, and then you get mentoring. They have to do the written exam and they have to demonstrate the markers on at least a single call here.
People can get confused by the components. And so these are different components. The coaching hours is how much you've coached someone. You can coach to a certain extent pro bono, or barter coaching counts as paid. So for example, if you're trading for a service, if someone's even paying $1, so on the coaching hour side, the training hours is for ICF approved programs, but also we'll make a separate video. If your training program wasn't ICF approved, I still actually recommend you see if the ICF will give you credit for your coach training. The key on the mentoring side is that you need to be mentored by someone who is at that level. So if you're mentored by a PCC, you can go for ACC or PCC, whereas your MCC mentoring has to be MCC. And then all of them have the multiple choice exam. So the coach knowledge assessment is a multiple choice exam, and then the call differentiation. And what I would say about MCC, and this is my personal opinion, but it is a different type of coaching. There's a depth to it. There's a purity to it. What happens is that a lot of the consulting has to be scrubbed out. It's a different approach. And we talk about this some, when we talk about, why get an ICF credential or does this appeal to you? So, I think some people go in and they're like, oh, I want to take it all the way to the top. I would say the majority of coaches actually stay at and are at the PCC level because they see that serving them in their professional lives. They see it as a mark of distinction. Um, Oftentimes, if people have moved into that MTC level, they are career coaches. They've been in it for a long time, or they may be more involved in coaching education, training schools, things like that.
We touched upon this before in the last video, which is what does this mean, credential versus certified? And I just wanted to revisit this as we're talking about these actual credentials, because you notice that we pointed out in the last video, it says associate certified coach, but it's actually credentialed. And the credential is the award after you meet the specific criteria and passing the assessments and taking the test and all the training. And certification, the certified, is really just when you complete a training course, they issue a certificate. So that's really what certified means. Mentoring. So for each of the credentials here, they all need 10 hours.
It's really to hone the craft of coaching in the way that is aligned with the ICF core competencies, that aligned with the PCC markers, because mentoring is not mentoring on building your coaching business or building your coaching practice. While that can be very valuable mentoring that you could benefit from as a coach, as a business owner, or supervision, which I know we'll talk a little bit more about later, which is different. This is very much kind of coaching on your coaching, because it's one thing to learn something, it's another thing to actually do it. So I can read about swimming, I can watch YouTube videos about swimming, but when I hit that water, it's a very different experience. So that's really where the mentoring kind of brings this to light. We offer supervision through Hawthorne Union. Check that out. Or Paul Sambar has classes and then one-on-one group, and then also a episode on cross-street coaching. So the difference between supervision and mentor coaching is mentor coaching is on your coaching. What do I say here? Try this instead. Use this phrasing. Don't make recommendations, etc. Whereas supervision is more about what it's bringing up for you as a coach. So supervision is, I believe, required in a number of countries. It's much more common in Europe. Who is your supervisor, who you're working for. In North America, it's new. It's being used more often, but it's still kind of an unknown. And it's required, I think, for the team and group, or maybe an option for team and group credential, but it's not yet required for their other credentialing levels. This is something I do recommend that you check out, because what'll happen in your coaching is, while mentor coaching focuses on what you're saying and what you're doing, what it's bringing up for you. So the first time a client doesn't want to answer your questions, or doesn't seem to provide value, or you're not really sure what to say or where to go, that's not always just about how you're applying what you've learned as a coach. When we think about social emotional or whole person, which is some of the terms that we look at here, supervision brings in that. So we recommend this. Consider trying it out. And then for those of you, whether you're pursuing or renewing, you can take up to 10 hours of supervision and count that towards either your coach education or your renewal of your credential. There's a number of acronyms that can get challenging and confusing when you are pursuing your ICF credential. If you are just now in 2023 pursuing your credential, it likely says level 1, level 2, level 3 on your certificate once you complete that program. But if you took your education in the past, there's a couple different doors and options. If your training was not ICF approved, but you attended a program that was at least 30 hours that taught you how to be a coach, I do recommend you check out our video on pursuing a credential through a not ICF approved program. And the reason that I say that is because your coaching hours, that 100, that 500, that 2,500, start from day one of your credential. So being able to say, oh, I trained as a coach for an internal program in 2005 versus I went through an ACTP program in 2010. If I didn't count my non-ICF approved program, I would be out 750 coaching hours. ACSTH and ACTP, these are being sunsetted or transitioned. But essentially what it means is if you did specific coach training hours, so ACSTH, it means that you're likely that you're mentoring and your exams were not included. The ACTP program, often level 2 programs, are potentially more expensive because you work with a mentor and sometimes your exams are included. So when people come to Hawthorne Union and they're interested in working with a mentor, one of the first things I say is, do you have a certificate from your training program? Because sometimes people don't realize that they've already done the mentoring or maybe already done the exams. Sometimes ACCs will come to me and say, oh, I need mentoring to renew, but actually they've already done the education because they did an ACTP program. So looking at your certificate and connecting with a mentor because we can help you through this. We're here to help you through this stuff. If it's ACSTH, those programs may be less expensive, but you're also going to have to pay for mentoring. What's confusing here is you don't have to do level 1. You can go straight to level 2. But if you're doing a level 3, you had to already be at the PCC level. So one thing to note though, you can get these programs on your own. So for my journey, I was trained in a non-ICF approved program. I then did an ACTP, which is now level 2. So I went straight to PCC. I worked with people from my previous company to use their non-ICF approved training to apply for their PCC without attending a level 2. So your takeaway from this video is not, oh, I need to go do this level. It's just if you're new and shopping for coach education, these are some of the terms to know that your level 1 may or may not have mentoring included in it. It may or may not have your exams included. You might apply to the ICF directly if it used to be called ACSTH. Whereas if you're taking an ACTP program or going for the PCC level, more than likely the mentoring is included. I think the hard thing about the terminology, even though the desire was to streamline it, is that there's not an exact match. ACTP doesn't mean exactly level 2. It's pretty close. But ACSTH doesn't necessarily mean level 1 because you may have mentoring included. So right now, we're in a transition period where your program may have both terms. Let's say, for example, if you're looking for a program that is specifically, if it works with a specific demographic, let's say you want to specialize in working with clients that are neurodivergent, or you want to work with clients on a group and team perspective, or you're specifically focused on integrating DEIB in your coaching. You may want a level 1 for those reasons.